Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that somebody else does. And that's the thing, I think that's the other thing where a lot of, you know, of those stories and theories come to be is I am not in control of my own fate. I am not in control of my life. Therefore, somebody else must be in control. Now, if I can find this person and make that person accountable, I will have a better life. But there may be no other person, right?
That's right. That made that whole strategy for getting the better life might be the distraction that we're talking about.
Yes. I think so
Yeah.
because if you think about oftentimes when you're running around feeling busy, accomplishing nothing in particular, um, if you now make yourself pause for a second and say, well, what would I be doing if I removed? All of a sudden, you realize you haven't done a single thing in the whole day that was even marginally useful, perhaps if you're unlucky. But then you realize that if you had had all this time, you would have had to all of a sudden you have this time, you have to figure out what to do with it. So you go from having no time at all of a sudden to a lot of time, and all you had to do is just switch in the way that you look at yourself. And that can be scary because you say, now I don't know what to do with myself. Now I have all this time. And so you prefer to be running around feeling busy.
Yes.
So I think it happens to all of us.
Yes.
I mean, what does one do when one catches oneself in a moment like this?
Take a breath, let go. And I mean, that's what I do every chance I get is try to just come back into experience that I
Yeah.
am sensation, you know, um, and presence, being present and letting go of thought. I
Yeah.
figure if it's that important, I don't need to keep hanging on to it, and it'll come back. Maybe that's part of it. What it is, it's a fear that if I don't keep working this particular kind of thinking, I'm going to lose it or lose the ability.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's interesting. Yeah, no, that is true because the neural network, if it isn't active, it becomes weaker and may get repurposed for something else. So
yeah.
those molecules that make up the synapses, they're selfish. They say we want to be replicated, we want to be
Yes.
conserved, we want the synapse to stay because if the synapse stays, that means that whatever drives the synapse gets dissolved. And the way that it's designed, it seems there is this circuit for self-replication. People don't really understand how it works, but there is that, which you could look at perhaps as a bit of a selfish circuit, that its purpose is sort of like a government. The
Yeah.
purpose is to maintain itself, and
Right.
everything else is secondary,
Exactly.
unfortunately. Yes, but no, this is really, really interesting. And I'm thinking, one thing that I thought before, I realized that when I moved here, when I moved to Northern California, because you'd say San Jose is the sort of the heart of the Silicon Valley, right? Or this is the Silicon Valley. I don't know what the heart is of it, something digital. And that brings me to the point that, those digital things, they are completely heartless, they're cold, they're sad in many ways, they're so anti-human, to be stuck constantly doing things online. It creates a certain, emptiness in every single one of us. And it's probably most pronounced where people do most of it. And so what I'm getting at is that you look to the other side. I've never seen as many yoga retreats and meditation retreats and all sorts of things like this as I have seen in the Silicon Valley, as a I think as a cry for help, as a desperate attempt to find a balance is in this insanely overloaded, digitally, distorted world. That
Yes.
Do you think there is something to it?
Oh, that I think you're speaking truth as far as truth can be spoken.
Okay, well, that is a very good. As they say, there is exactly one thing that is worse than speaking the truth, and that is not speaking the truth.
Ah,
Yeah.
ah, yeah,
So yeah, no, but it's very interesting though. Um,
yeah,
right? That
yeah.
people, yeah, people feel
And
it.
for me, that again is uh, a parallel. You know, you're talking about the balance, these opposites of the heartless technology
Yes,
and driving people to find the heart, driving people to retreats and resets and whatever they're
yes,
calling them these days to seek something, you know, a resource for uh, wholeness and peace and well-being. And um, and that's what I was talking about, that our conscious and our unconscious, you know, our
yes,
unconscious or subconscious uh, surfacing material that our conscious mind is saying, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to think that. I've made a decision. I'm too obsessive. You know, I'm too obsessed with this. Why am I always dwelling on the past or dwelling in the wreckage of my future?
yes,
Um, I just want to be present and free and breathe. I think the two go hand in hand, that there
yes,
is a balance. The coldness of technology and the uh, embodied heartness of human beings longing for something that's not being um, delivered or nourished in
yes,
our lives, and trying to understand how do we find that balance.
yes.
One
Because
drives, it's fear and love. Fear wakes us up. It's adrenaline, it's
yes,
energy. It wakes us up. And hopefully, in that wakefulness, we remember to breathe. We remember that the only life I have is right here.
yes,
And I'm missing it when I'm reading the same story over and over again, you know?
yes,
Like you have a book, you love the book, you read it and read it and read it over and over, and eventually it's not interesting anymore.
yes,
But you can't stop reading it. But we are the book,
yeah,
and we're trying to understand it. But what we're reading is from this one perspective of being a victim.
yes. Absolutely. And sometimes I think catching yourself in the moment and developing this ability, it's easy to say when you everything is good. You just say to yourself, yes, I just need to be alert in the moment when it happens so I can pull myself out of it. But in the moment that it's happening is actually much harder, so much more difficult. And
It's
so
the hardest.
yes, and so remembering it then when
Yes,
you're locked in, and
yes,
that it's actually quite easy. It seems like all you need to do is catch yourself in the moment and then send yourself the right message.
that's right.
But it is this extra whole layer of awareness that one needs to train somehow so that one can do it.
Train, yes, that's why they call it a practice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So one needs
That,
to,
that,
yeah, it's, yes. And so,
that's what we're doing. We're
yes.
training. we're training. We're training for these moments
Yes.
when the
And so
conditions are
more or less acceptable and amenable for that.
yeah, conducive to, okay, this is the hardest moment to make this leap, but what am I supposed to do now? Oh, breathe, just become embodied, and which means it sounds like a concept, but we want to go beyond the concept, let go of the concept, and immerse ourselves into the experience of being, of being a physical being right here.
Yes.
Feel your heart. You feel your breath. You feel your blood moving through your body and anything else that's there. And anything that doesn't have to do with the physical sensations, you see it, you notice it, it carries you away momentarily, but you come back.